The peculiar gift arrived for Ethan on a Sunday, designated the observance of Father's Day. It was intended to be a surprise, delivered by a courier service. But before Ethan could retrieve his utility knife, his wife, Chloe, approached, her face etched with immediate alarm. "Don't open it," she whispered, her voice tight. Ethan, sensing her panic, asked, "Why? Can't you see?" He looked closer, and in that moment, 10 minutes of frozen, silent shock elapsed before the necessary arrival of law enforcement. The truth of what the box contained, and who had sent it, was a realization that would fundamentally redefine his life. The prelude to this unsettling Father's Day had occurred merely 6 days earlier, a Saturday confrontation that scarred the tranquility of their home on 1500 Cedar Drive. "Dad, do you even understand that I need the money now, not after you die?" The declaration, shrill and entirely devoid of empathy, was punctuated by the sound of shattering ceramic. The coffee cup, dropped by his daughter, Bianca, hit the hard, polished wooden floor. Brown liquid instantly spilled onto the valuable Persian rug. Bianca's face was flushed, her manicured fingers still trembling from the violent impact of dropping the cup. Ethan, a man who had dedicated 43 years of 12-hour days to his work, gripped the inheritance documents tighter in his hand. 30 years of meticulous, careful financial planning had been instantly reduced to weapons in my daughter's desperate hands. The legal papers crinkled audibly under his white knuckles. "Bianca, I'm not an automated telemachine," he stated, fighting to keep his voice steady. "You will get your inheritance when the time comes." His son-in-law, Victor, lounged deeper into their comfortable leather sofa, a smirk already widening on his face. "Come on, Ethan," Victor drawled. "She's your only daughter. What's a few thousand to help us out?" A few thousand. Ethan felt the bitter taste of disrespect in his mouth. Victor possessed absolutely no sense of shame. Just the previous month, the request had been tied to undisclosed gambling debts. Before that, it was to fund Bianca's endless shopping sprees. The financial requests never stopped, only growing bolder. "Help you out." Ethan stood slowly, his 66-year-old joints protesting the sudden movement. "I've helped you out for 3 years running now. My retirement fund isn't your personal bank." Chloe appeared silently in the doorway, a dish towel twisted nervously in her hands. "Please, everyone just calm down," she pleaded softly. "We can talk about this reasonably." "Reasonably?" Bianca whirled toward her mother, her fury momentarily aimed at Chloe's attempt at peace. "He's sitting on hundreds of thousands while we're drowning in debt. Debt you created." Ethan countered quietly, the harsh truth hitting hard. "Debt resulting entirely from your choices." He noticed the silver-framed family photo on the mantelpiece, now facing downward. Had it fallen during Bianca's outburst, or had someone deliberately turned it away? The frame reflected the overhead light, like a mirror showing nothing but empty brightness. Victor shifted forward, rested his elbows on his knees. "Look, old man," he pushed, the term dripping with intentional disrespect. "You're not getting any younger. Why not enjoy sharing your wealth while you're alive to see it appreciated?" "Old man." The disrespect tasted bitter in Ethan's mouth. This insult came from a man who never held a steady job and who lived entirely off Bianca's maxed-out credit cards and Ethan's occasional generosity. "I worked 43 years for that money," Ethan insisted, each word emerging harder than the last. 43 years of 12-hour days, missed dinners, canceled vacations. All so you, Bianca, could have a comfortable childhood. All so your mother and I could retire with dignity. Dignity? Bianca erupted with harsh, cynical laughter. "What's dignified about hoarding money while your daughter suffers?" "Suffers?" Ethan's gaze swept over her designer handbag, her freshly applied highlights, her expensive jewelry, and Victor's brand-new sneakers. Their suffering looked remarkably comfortable, he thought. "Your suffering is self-inflicted." The words escaped Ethan before his conscious mind could stop them. Every crisis, every emergency, every desperate plea for money. You created them all. The silence stretched taut, tight as piano wire. Chloe stepped fully into the room, her face alarmingly pale. "Ethan," she whispered urgently, "maybe we should..." "Should what?" Bianca's voice cracked like breaking glass. Should keep enabling your selfishness? Should keep pretending you're a loving father instead of greedy miser? The accusations, greedy, selfish, unloving, hit him like physical blows. 43 years of sacrifice, and this was his reward. Victor stood up, his expression shifting to something uglier. "You know what I think, Ethan?" he sneered. "I think you enjoy watching us struggle. It makes you feel powerful, doesn't it? Get out." The command resonated from somewhere deep in Ethan's chest. "Both of you, get out of my house." "Your house." Bianca's eyes glittered dangerously. "This house that Mom helped to pay for? This house where I grew up? You can't just kick out your own daughter." "Watch me." But she did not move. Neither did Victor. They stood rooted, like predators who'd caught the scent of weakness, waiting for Ethan to back down, waiting for the usual apology, the compromise, the check written to purchase temporary peace. Not this time. Ethan walked decisively to the front door and opened it wide. Cool evening air rushed in, carrying the distant sound of neighbors laughing, normal families having normal conversations. "Bianca," Ethan said without turning back, "take your husband and leave. Do not return until you're ready to have a respectful conversation about your financial problems and about solutions that don't involve my wallet. You'll regret this," she hissed, grabbing her purse. "When you're old and sick and need someone to take care of you, remember this moment. Remember how you chose money over family." Her heels clicked across the hardwood floor like gunshots. Victor followed, pausing dramatically at the threshold. "This isn't over, old man," he muttered darkly. "Family doesn't abandon family." The door slammed hard enough to rattle the window panes. The ensuing silence felt heavier than their shouting had been. Ethan remained frozen, his hand still gripping the cold brass handle. Through the decorative glass panels, he watched Bianca's luxury car reverse aggressively out of the driveway, tires spinning on the asphalt. Chloe's soft, careful footsteps approached from behind. "Ethan," she whispered. He turned slowly. The living room looked like a desolate battlefield. Coffee stains darkened the Persian rug they had bought for their 20th anniversary. The torn inheritance documents lay scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. The overturned family photo on the mantel caught the lamplight, its silver frame winking mockingly. 43 years, he whispered, more to himself than to her. He walked to the mantel and carefully righted the family photo. 5-year-old Bianca smiled back at him, gap-toothed and innocent, sitting on his shoulders at the county fair. When had that joyful child become this manipulative stranger demanding my life savings? Chloe began picking up the scattered papers. "She's struggling, Ethan." "The gambling problem is her choice," Ethan shot back, sharper than he intended. "Every casino visit, every online bet, every lie about where the money went, her choices." He recalled the dollhouse she desperately wanted for Christmas from the expensive toy store downtown. He had worked double shifts for 2 months just to afford it. They both remembered the ballet lessons, the summer camps, the expensive brand-name shoes, every sacrifice made gladly for their daughter's happiness. "And now she throws coffee mugs at me because I won't hand over my retirement fund." "She didn't throw at you, Ethan. She threw it at the floor," Chloe corrected. But the distinction felt meaningless. The violence and disrespect were identical. "Victor didn't create her greed," Ethan stated. "He just gave her permission to show itself." His phone buzzed sharply. A text message from an unknown number. Yet he instantly recognized the aggressive, accusatory writing style. "Dad, I hope you're happy. Kids need winter coats and school supplies, but apparently your precious money is more important than your grandchildren. Don't expect to see them anytime soon." Grandchildren, the ultimate weapon in Bianca's arsenal. Maya and Leo, 8 and 6 years old. Innocent casualties in their mother's war for his wallet. Chloe's face instantly crumpled when he showed her the message. She wouldn't really keep them away from us, would she? But they both knew she would. She had done it before during smaller arguments, using the children as bargaining chips in her endless quest for money. "Ethan, maybe we should reconsider." "No," the word exploded from him like a gunshot. "No more. I won't be held hostage by threats about the grandchildren. I won't teach Maya and Leo that love can be bought, that family relationships are transactions. Chloe flinched at his sudden vehemence. In 38 years of marriage, she had rarely seen him this angry, never speaking with such cold finality. The illusion of loving sacrifice had shattered as completely as that coffee mug. 6 days later, Ethan sat on their front porch with a Sunday paper, desperately trying to find normalcy in the Father's Day morning routine. His coffee had grown cold in his mug, but he held on to it anyway. The distinctive rumble of a delivery truck broke through his thoughts. A brown UPS vehicle slowed to a stop in front of their house. Ethan looked up from the sports section. Sunday deliveries were rare unless someone paid extra for weekend service. The driver approached and pulled a medium-sized box from the back. "Ethan Carr? That's me." "Happy Father's Day," the driver said. Ethan signed, studying the shipping label. There was no return address visible. The box felt surprisingly light, roughly the dimensions of a shoebox, weighing maybe 2 pounds at most. "Who's that from?" Chloe called from the kitchen doorway. "No idea," Ethan replied, setting the package on the coffee table. Chloe approached, cautious and curious. "No return address." "Maybe it's from the grandchildren," she suggested, though her tone lacked conviction. Chloe leaned closer, examining the box with methodical attention. "Ethan," she said slowly, her voice dropping, "don't open it." "Why?" She pointed to something Ethan had missed entirely. "Can't you see? The holes. They're for breathing." Ethan's stomach plummeted. He could see them now. Tiny punctures in the cardboard. Small, precise holes that someone had clearly made on purpose. "Breathing holes," he repeated, his voice flat. "Something alive is inside." They stood staring down at the package. Who would send us something alive? Chloe whispered. The timing, the anonymous sender, the Sunday delivery. This wasn't a gift. This was something else entirely. From inside the box came the faintest sound, a soft, dry rustling that caused both of them to freeze instantly. Then, a soft hissing sound emerged from the cardboard, barely audible but unmistakably real. The sound ceased, then came again, longer this time, a distinct hiss that sent ice through my veins. Chloe's grip on his arm tightened until her nails bit through his shirt fabric. "Ethan," she whispered, terrified. "Call someone now." His hands were shaking violently as he pulled out his phone. 911. "What is your emergency?" "We have a suspicious package here with something alive inside," he managed. "It was delivered this morning with no return address, and it's making sounds." He described the hissing and the small holes punched in the cardboard, breathing holes. The dispatcher instructed him to maintain a safe distance, confirming officers would arrive within 10 minutes. 10 minutes felt like an eternity. Who could have done this, Ethan? Chloe asked once he had hung up. "I'm afraid to guess," he admitted, but his mind was already connecting the dots. The timing on Father's Day, the anonymous sender, someone angry enough about our recent argument to plan something this elaborate, this cruel. The box rustled again, more insistently. "The argument," Chloe said quietly, 6 days ago. She was so angry when she left. "This isn't anger," Ethan gestured at the package. "This is something else. Revenge." He realized Bianca hadn't just lashed out. She had crafted a deliberate act of psychological warfare. The sound of car doors slamming outside made them both jump. 2 officers walked toward their door. Ethan opened the door to Officer Todd Reeves. "We received your call about a suspicious package," the officer stated. They led him to the coffee table. Officer Reeves approached cautiously, pulling latex gloves from his utility belt. After examining the package and confirming the hissing sounds, he radioed dispatch. "Unit 47 requesting animal control services at 1500 Cedar Drive. Suspected snake delivery in residential package." Officer Reeves turned to Ethan, his curiosity shifting to investigation. "Do you have any idea who might have sent this?" "I don't know," Ethan said carefully. "Probably just some kids playing pranks." The officer's gaze sharpened. "Kids would need access to live animals, shipping materials, knowledge of your address. This required planning and resources." He was right. Officer Reeves pulled out a notebook. "Any unusual charges on your credit cards recently? Pet stores?" exotic animal suppliers. The question struck Ethan like a physical blow. The memory crashed over him with terrible clarity. The charge he had noticed on last month's statement. Bianca used his credit card for emergencies. Exotic scale emporium, $127.50. He had assumed it was something for the grandchildren. Not a snake. Never a snake, he thought. My daughter had sent me a snake. The horrifying clarity settled in. Officer Reeves asked if he planned to file a formal report. Ethan looked at Chloe, seeing the same conflict in her eyes. Loyalty against justice. No, Ethan said quietly. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. If it's just a prank, filing charges seems excessive. Officer Reeves noted his refusal, his expression suggesting he knew family loyalty often trumped justice. Animal control arrived, and Mike Johnson, the specialist, worked efficiently. Within 20 minutes, he safely extracted a 3-foot corn snake, confirmed it was non-venomous, and secured it for transport to a rescue facility. Beautiful specimen, Johnson said. Shame someone used it for whatever this was. After the authorities departed, Ethan and Chloe were left alone with the morning's aftermath. The coffee table bore faint water stains where the surface had been disinfected. The inheritance documents were res-tacked, now evidence of the betrayal that had triggered the morning's events. Ethan stood at the front window, watching normal families return from their Father's Day outings. The credit card charge, exotic scale emporium, $127.50. 3 weeks ago, right after the inheritance argument, burned in his memory like a brand. Are you really going to call her? Chloe asked quietly. I need to know for certain, Ethan replied. He called Bianca. It rang twice before she picked up. Dad. Bianca's voice carried an artificial brightness. How's your Father's Day going? Interesting morning, actually. Ethan kept his voice neutral. Bianca, you wouldn't happen to know anything about a strange Father's Day gift. No, Dad, what happened? Her response came almost too quickly. But it was what happened next that instantly confirmed his worst suspicions. In the background, unmistakably, Ethan heard Victor's quiet laughter. Not a surprised chuckle, but the satisfied snicker of someone who thought they'd gotten away with something clever. The sound hit Ethan like a physical blow. All doubt vanished. Just some confusion with the delivery. Ethan said, fighting to keep his voice steady. Nothing important. I should let you go. Are you sure everything's okay? You sound strange. Everything's fine, Bianca. Enjoy your Sunday. He ended the call before his carefully maintained composure could crack. Chloe appeared at his side. You heard something? Victor laughed. The words came out flat and emotionless. Chloe's hand found his arm, a steadying presence. What are you going to do? Ethan looked toward his home office, where his computer held access to all the financial tools that had kept Bianca afloat for 3 years. I'm going to teach my daughter about consequences, he said. At 7 o'clock. Ethan sat in his home office, the door closed, the computer humming quietly. He had spent the afternoon converting his anger into something cold and purposeful. His desk held the evidence of decades of enabling. Bank statements showing monthly transfers for rent, credit card bills he had paid, and emergency loans that were never repaid. He navigated to their online banking portal. First, the credit card account that showed the exotic scale emporium charge. Bianca was listed as an authorized user. He clicked Manage Users. When the system asked, Remove authorized user? Ethan hovered the cursor over Confirm. 30 years I've funded your irresponsibility. Enough. He clicked. User access revoked. Next came the PIN changes, selecting new digits that meant something to his marriage, but nothing to Bianca's schemes. He then systematically canceled all automated payments. The monthly transfer to her checking account, the car insurance payment, and the subscription for her gym membership. Each required confirmation, creating a digital paper trail of his decision to stop being her private bank. His hands remained steady throughout the process. This wasn't cruelty. It was overdue accountability. He had believed her tearful promises that last month's gambling debt was a final crisis. Instead, he realized he'd been teaching her that consequences were always optional. The final screen showed the summary. Credit access removed. Automatic payments canceled. PIN codes updated. The work of 30 years of enabling was undone in 30 minutes of methodical clicking. Leaning back in his chair, Ethan felt a profound sense of control. Tomorrow morning, she would discover that her financial safety net was gone. For the first time in decades, the consequences of her choices would be entirely her own responsibility. Morning arrived with unusual peace. The phone rang precisely at 8:15 a.m., Bianca's name on the caller ID. Exactly as expected. Ethan let it ring twice before answering. "Good morning, Bianca." "Dad, what have you done?" Her voice hit him like a physical assault, shrill with panic. "My card isn't working. I tried to buy groceries, and it was declined. The automatic payment for my car insurance bounced." "What is happening?" Ethan took a calm sip of coffee. "Bianca, I know you sent me that Father's Day gift." The resulting silence was vast. When she spoke, her voice had shifted instantly to defensive fury. "You've lost your mind. How could you set me up like this?" "I didn't do anything," Ethan said calmly. "I simply stopped paying for your irresponsibility." "This is insane. You can't just cut me off without warning. I have bills, obligations, responsibilities." "Responsibilities?" Ethan countered. "Like the responsibility to treat your parents with basic respect? Like the responsibility to handle your own finances instead of depending on mine?" "Fine. You want to play games?" she yelled. "Don't expect to see your grandchildren anytime soon. Maya and Leo won't even remember you by the time." "Bianca." Ethan cut her off with quiet firmness. "Those threats stopped working yesterday morning." She switched to the victim voice that had opened his wallet countless times. "I'm your daughter. I'm struggling, and instead of helping me, you're punishing me for something I didn't even do." "Your struggle is not my responsibility," Ethan stated. "Your choices created your situation. Your choices sent that package. Your choices will determine what happens next." "You're being ridiculous. One little prank, and you completely lose your mind." "One little prank." The confirmation was clear. A prank involving a dangerous animal isn't little, Bianca, and a father cutting off financial support after 30 years of enabling isn't losing his mind. It's finally finding it. Her voice turned arctic. "This isn't over, old man. You think you can control me by controlling money? We'll see about that." The line went dead. The roar of a car engine entering their driveway shattered the morning calm moments later. Heavy footsteps marched across the front walkway. Ethan and Chloe exchanged a glance. "She's coming here," Chloe said quietly. "Stay here," Ethan told her. "No," Chloe replied, her voice carrying unexpected strength. "We're in this together." Ethan opened the door to find Bianca and Victor standing on the porch, like a two-person army ready for battle. "Dad, we need to talk." Bianca's voice vibrated with rage. "There's no misunderstanding, Bianca. You sent me a snake." I responded appropriately. Victor stepped forward, his bulk filling the doorway. "Look, old man, maybe you didn't think this through properly. Bianca has expenses, responsibilities, kids need things. Kids whose mother threatens to keep them away from their grandparents when she doesn't get money," Ethan replied evenly. Bianca's face contorted with fury. "Fine. You want to play hardball? You'll never see your grandchildren again. Maya and Leo will grow up knowing their grandfather chose money over family." The words that had once been his greatest fear now felt utterly powerless. Ethan looked at his daughter. "Bianca," he said quietly, "that's not a threat. That's a blessing." The shock on her face was complete. This was not the devastating blow that had always brought him to his knees before. If you're the kind of person who uses children as weapons against their grandparents, then perhaps it's better that they're not exposed to that kind of manipulation while they're young. Victor stepped forward, menacingly close. "We know where you live, old man," he said, his voice low. "We know your routines, your schedule. You might want to reconsider your position." "Are you threatening me, Victor?" "I'm just saying that family relationships work both ways. You want to cut us off? Fine. But don't expect us to just disappear quietly." "Actually," Ethan corrected, "that's exactly what I expect. And if you choose not to disappear quietly, that becomes a matter for the police rather than family negotiation." Victor continued, fueled by aggression. You think cutting off our money makes you powerful? There are other ways to get what we need. I'm sure there are, Ethan agreed, like getting jobs, for instance. Novel concept, but people have been supporting themselves through employment for centuries. This isn't over. Bianca hissed. You'll regret treating us like this. There already are consequences, Ethan said. You're living them right now. They stared at him for a long moment, finally realizing that their access to his resources was closed. Without another word, Bianca spun on her heel. Victor followed, giving Ethan one last menacing look. When the car disappeared, Ethan closed the door. Chloe's face was pale, but her eyes held pride. We're going to need legal advice, Ethan said. The next morning, Ethan called Eleanor Hawthorne. Her office occupied the third floor of a granite building downtown. Ethan sat across from her mahogany desk, feeling calmer than he had in weeks. Eleanor listened to the entire story. The inheritance demands, the snake delivery, the cutoff, and the threatening confrontation where Victor implied knowing their routines. Ethan, this goes beyond a family disagreement. You're describing harassment and intimidation. We need to address this on multiple fronts, she advised. I want my money to go to my grandchildren's education, not to my daughter's casino debts, Ethan requested. Eleanor confirmed they would create an educational trust fund for Maya and Leo's schooling and legitimate educational needs. An independent trustee would manage the funds, preventing any access by Bianca or Victor, ensuring they could not manipulate the children's inheritance. Chloe's security and retirement accounts would remain fully protected. Next, Eleanor began documenting the necessary details for a restraining order. The snake incident is particularly concerning, she said, noting that using live animals to frighten elderly parents shows planning and malice that courts take seriously. The will modifications could be finalized within the week, and the restraining order will be filed immediately. Once it's granted, any contact from Bianca or Victor becomes a legal matter rather than a family dispute, Eleanor confirmed. Eleanor cautioned him that people who use manipulation and threats don't usually accept boundaries gracefully, and Bianca's reaction might be significant. But Ethan was unafraid. Her anger would now be directed at the legal system. Ethan signed prepared documents, feeling the satisfying finality of the decisions. The restraining order should be approved by end of business today, Eleanor said. Court officers will serve both Bianca and Victor by tomorrow morning. After that, any contact with you or Chloe becomes a criminal matter. Ethan left the office knowing he had secured his family's safety. 2 days later, Eleanor called to confirm. The documents were delivered at 2:15 today. Both Bianca and Victor have been served with a restraining order, and they've received copies of the will modifications. It's done. Ethan and Chloe sat together, holding hands. The law was clear. The protections were comprehensive. Bianca had spent years threatening to cut off his access to Maya and Leo, and now, through her own escalating behavior, she had permanently ensured that separation while simultaneously losing any claim to the inheritance she coveted. The quiet felt profound, like the silence after a long, exhausting storm has finally passed. Ethan had reclaimed his role as a father who loved his daughter enough to refuse to enable her destruction of herself and others. Legal boundaries had replaced emotional manipulation. Professional consequences had replaced family guilt. The law had given him back his life. Tonight, for the first time in decades, he would sleep without wondering what tomorrow's crisis would cost him.